I'm Lori Siemens, and today I'm going to be talking about socialism and Christianity. So I get told all the time that if I am a Christian, that I have to be a socialist, and that if I'm not a socialist, then I am a hypocrite as a Christian. I get this at least 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes I get told I'm a Nazi if I'm not a socialist. We're going to make a whole other video about the whole idea of a Nazi and socialism, but today I want to specifically address the idea of Christianity and socialism. So here we go. First of all, the ideas of socialism and Christianity do have one thing in common. So Marxism teaches that you don't want to oppress the poor, and Christianity also teaches that we're not supposed to oppress the poor. Okay, I'm going to read from Proverbs right now. So Proverbs chapter 14 verse 31 says, "Those who exploit the powerless anger their maker, while those who are kind to the poor honor God." And this is really just one of many verses in the Bible that says that we're not supposed to exploit the poor. In fact, one of my favorite verses is in James, which says that true religion to God is this: taking care of widows and orphans in their distress and keeping yourself pure from the world. So when you see verses like this and you read all the verses in Proverbs where God is telling us not to exploit the poor, then you might think, hey, that actually sounds pretty Marxist. But that's when we look at what Marxism and socialism have in common. But let's look at actually what are the differences between Christianity and socialism. Okay, first of all, the Bible tells us that we're supposed to be giving freely with a joyful heart. That we are giving to the poor, we are taking care of people, and we are doing that freely. Whereas socialism, on the other hand, is the government taking my things forcibly and then the government deciding where that gets played. So let me kind of give you a story that will explain that. So imagine that I'm in Canada, and I love Canada, but we're in Canada. Now imagine that you go to Tim Hortons. And for those of you who are watching from America, I don't know if you have this, but we have something called Roll Up the Rim. Everyone looks forward to Roll Up the Rim season. So imagine it's Roll Up the Rim season. You're at Tim Hortons, you go up, I love French vanilla, it's my favorite. So imagine I get my French vanilla and I drink it, and afterwards I'm rolling up the rim and I don't get the sorry, please try again or the free cookie that I normally get. Instead, I actually win a new car. It's so exciting. Now, I actually already have a car. Imagine that I just finished paying off my car. So now I have 2 cars. Pretty cool. But then imagine I'm lying in bed and I'm thinking that I just remember hearing about a single mom who's really struggling. She's got little kids. She's got to take them on the bus to get places. She's trying to work. She's got to get them to daycare and then to work, and she's really struggling. And I think, you know what? I have 2 cars now. Like, God has blessed me with 2 cars. I don't need 2 cars. So the next day I show up at her house with one of my cars and I say, you know what, this is just a gift from you. I just want to bless you the way God has blessed me. She's going to be ecstatic because now she has a car and she's going to make her life so much better. I'm going to feel good because I know God has used me to bless somebody else. That is Christianity. Now imagine the exact same story. So I go to Tim Hortons, I roll up the rim, I get a brand new car, I already have a car. The government comes to me and says, actually, you're not allowed to own any cars because you can't actually own anything. We're going to take both of your cars. Then we're going to look at your situation, and if we think you need a car, then maybe we'll let you have one, because that is socialism. Pretty big difference. So under socialism, you don't get to own anything. There's no private property under socialism. So what does the Bible say about that? Well, the 8th commandment says, don't steal, which kind of would mean people would have to have private property in order to steal. But just in case that isn't clear enough, we can go to the 10th commandment, which says that we're not supposed to covet our neighbor's house, their things, or their wives. So pretty clear here that God is fine with people having private property. But it's that covet thing that brings us to the next difference. You see, Christianity teaches us that we should be content with what we have and not covet other people's things. Socialism and Marxism at its core requires jealousy. The entire movement of socialism rests on the foundation of one class of people coveting things that the other class of people have. It is the poor, instead of saying, hey, I want to work really hard so that I can have the things that the rich people have, it's the poor saying, you're rich, you have more than I have, that's not fair. The government should take some of your things away and give it to me. See, right there at the core of socialism is coveting and jealousy. Socialism versus Christianity can really just be summed up by saying coveting versus contentment. Now here's another argument that I get all the time, the early church. Hey, didn't the early church give up everything they have and then share it with each other? Isn't that the way the early church worked? Yes, actually that is the way the early church worked, but they were never commanded to do that. It just kind of came up as the church was beginning and starting. This is how they lived, but never were they commanded to do that. In fact, there's a story of a man and his wife who said that they sold everything that they owned to give to the church. And when they came to the church and said, hey, we sold all the things that we have and we want to give all this money to the church, they were lying actually. They had sold part of what they had and kept part of it for themselves. Now, they didn't get in trouble there because they had kept part of it to themselves. They got in trouble because they were lying about what they had done. And in fact, they were even told, you didn't have to sell everything that you have and you didn't have to give it all to us, but you're pretending that you did and you're lying to us. And so it was the lying that got them into trouble. Now, the church was commanded to take care of the widows, but even in the church being commanded to take care of the widows, for one thing, the church was being commanded to take care of the widows. That's still different than the government taking all of our things and then the government deciding. That was not mandated. But the church was told that as a church we should be caring for the widows. But even in that, there were rules that were put in place. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 10, we learn that if somebody wasn't willing to work, then they shouldn't be able to eat. 1 Timothy 5:10 talks about if you're going to be helping a widow in the church, this needs to be a widow who has a good reputation. Also, the church was supposed to step up and help when there wasn't family who was able to do it. 1 Timothy 5:8, we hear that families that don't take care of people in their own family, take care of widows who are in their family, that they are the worst. It actually is saying there that they are like people who have denied the faith, and they're worse than people who had never even had faith in the first place. And actually, families is another reason that socialism and Christianity really can't mix. Friedrich Engels was one of the founders of socialism, and he did not believe in families. He said he wanted a society where the family was no longer the economic unit, and that everything, the education and health, was all completely left up to the government and not up to families. Christianity, on the other hand, is completely built around the family unit. It's the foundation of how we live our lives. And there's one more reason why I know that socialism and Christianity don't mix. There's one more reason why I know absolutely for sure that God did not create socialism. And that is the simple fact that it doesn't work. If socialism was created by God, it would work. Socialism has never been successful. It's been tried over and over and over again. We can look at Venezuela right now to see how that's turning out. You can't find a single country that fully embraces socialism and that is successful. The only countries that people can point to are countries where there is still lots of capitalism, and the socialism that they have is only succeeding in the sense that the capitalism in that country is keeping the socialism afloat. You cannot find a country anywhere in the history of time that fully embraced socialism and continued to be successful. What ends up happening when you have a country that fully embraces socialism is that all the people become poor and it becomes a terrible place for everyone to live. So yeah, I guess fair in the fact that it sucks for everyone. Look, the truth is you can't have Christianity and socialism. And to be fair, the socialists get that. That's why when the socialists decide to kill people, they usually start with the Christians. Yes, socialist countries tend to have a pretty big part of their history that involves killing a lot of people, like millions of them. And usually Christians are the first on the list that are going to die. And that's because socialists get it. You can't have Christianity and socialism. It just doesn't mix. Seems pretty obvious to me. Socialism and Christianity just don't mix. Christianity teaches you to give with a willing heart. Christianity teaches that we should be content with what we have and not to be jealous of things that people have who have more things than us. Christianity has the family unit as the main source of taking care of people. And Christianity does tell us to take care of widows and orphans in their distress, but it tells us to do that. It doesn't tell us to give money to the government so that they can do it, or not even give money. Have the government forcibly take that money from us. So, no, I am not a socialist, and yes, I am a Christian, and stop telling me that I'm a bad Christian because I'm not a socialist, because quite frankly, this is kind of dumb. I'm Laura Lee Siemens. To see more of my stuff, you can check out lauraleesiemens.com for a whole bunch of other videos on a lot of different topics. This was one of my rant videos. I'll see you next time.